The Las Vegas massacre raises new questions about how to prevent these attacks. Joining me now for an exclusive interview, one of the giants of Las Vegas, Steve Wynn, chief executive of Wynn Resorts, who's been thinking about this problem for a long time. Steve, it was over a year ago when you said that Las Vegas was a target city and you were going to harden your hotels and casinos. What did you do?
Actually, it was 2 years ago Thanksgiving. And I got every consultant and advisor I can think of to come through, from Ray Kelly to people from SEALs Team 6. It took us from Thanksgiving until May to develop and institute and recruit a program of counterterrorism, and it'll be 2 years this May. And it started in 2015.
And without going into great detail, what kind of things do you have on your facilities?
Basically, we had to recruit and expand security by tens of millions of dollars to cover every entrance, to retrain the entire workforce, from housekeeping and room service, and people are in the tower and observing people. We had to cover every exit and every aspect of the building to see if we could identify and preempt any kind of terroristic or violent action. It's never perfect, of course, but what you can do, to use local vernacular, you can change the odds, I guess.
So, given all of that, and I know that you had hidden metal detectors and you had profilers in your casinos watching the people walking in and out, would any of those measures have prevented Stephen Paddock from checking into one of your hotels instead of the Mandalay Bay, to have brought in these suitcases carrying his arsenal, a couple of suitcases at a time, checking into a room on a high floor, knocking out the window, and raining terror down on people below?
Well, I know that my friends at MGM are particularly fastidious about trying to protect their employees and their guests. Having said that, there are a couple of things in retrospect, and it's always good to look over your shoulder on these things, but we have a routine with housekeeping, with room service, with audio-visual, anybody that goes in the room to do an inspection. We also have rules about do not disturb. If a room goes on do not disturb for more than 12 hours, we investigate. We don't allow guns in this building unless they're being carried by our employees, and there's a lot of them. But if anybody's got a gun, and we find them continually, we eject them from the hotel.
So if he had suitcases carrying these automatic or semi-automatic weapons, would you have been able to spot that if they were in the suitcases being carried up to his room?
Well, we certainly wouldn't invade the privacy of a guest in a room. But let's put it this way. The scenario that we're aware of would have indicated that he didn't let anyone in the room for 2 or 3 days. That would have triggered a whole bunch of alarms here. And we would have, on behalf of the guest, of course, investigated for safety. And it would have been a provocative situation. I'm sure that the same is true at other hotels, but in this hotel, a 36-hour, a 24-hour, a 36-hour do not disturb on a room is a predicate for investigation. After
the shooting last weekend, you started having security at the entrances to your hotels, wand people, inspect bags being brought in. Are you going to keep doing that? And with 2020 hindsight, the benefit there, have you thought of new measures that you're going to take to try to prevent another one of these massacres from happening, using one of the Wynn Resorts as a perch to fire down on thousands of people on the street below?
Well, if I can clear the record, we have been guarding the doors for 2 years, every single day, 24 hours a day. We have magnetometers at any place, at every employee entrance, and at every place of human collection, like the nightclubs. We don't wand people at the door. That's not necessary. We profile or inspect or examine everybody that enters the building. And under most circumstances, it's unnecessary to wand people or to do any kind of invasive procedure. the things we're looking for that represent potential threats are much more obvious and allow us a great deal of freedom in allowing us to not interfere with the normal flow of people in and out of the building, which is close to 15 or 20,000 people a day.
I understand that Stephen Paddock had gambled and stayed at your properties along with a lot of other places along the Strip. I know you talked to your security team afterwards. Looking back, after talking to all of them, how much of a profile did you have on him, and was there anything in that profile that should have raised a red flag?
It's an interesting question. He's been staying in Las Vegas since '06. So, we're talking about 11 years with his girlfriend, or at least in recent years, frequent visitor once or twice a month to this hotel and others. The most vanilla profile one could possibly imagine. A modest gambler, at least by our standards, nothing serious, paid promptly, never owed any money anywhere in Las Vegas. He didn't fit the profile of a problem or a compulsive gambler. If there was anything interesting that we discovered in the years of service, and we have butlers and waiters and masseuses and people in the beauty shop that know this woman and this man completely. They talk about normal, mundane things. But if there's anything interesting that stood out over the 6 years, nobody that's ever worked here has ever seen the gentleman or the lady take a drink of wine, beer, or alcohol of any kind. Now, a lot of people don't drink, but considering their frequency of all the restaurants and their behavior as normal tourists, taking advantage of everything that's available in our resort, they never, ever imbibed in any liquor. Their behavior was conservative, private, understated in every way. You never, ever would stop a man like this coming in the building. However, nobody in this company's history, no public person has ever walked in the service elevator unless they were accompanied by security. That wouldn't happen. Secondly,
did he go in the service elevator, Steve?
I'm just saying anything like that. I'm not sure whether he did, but nobody ever goes in the back of the house unaccompanied by security. But another thing, being in a room for 3 days in a do not disturb situation, that would have triggered an alarm here, and would have been considered as a potentially dangerous thing from the guest's point of view, that maybe the person was ill, and we would want to inspect and see that they were safe. We'd go into the room. We'd want to know more about anybody who was sequestered in a room for more than 12 hours. That would be something that our people have been trained to look out for.
Steve, you and I have known each other for some years. You are a very smart man who knows almost everything, has seen almost every aspect of human conduct. Do you have a theory? Do you have an instinct for the big question, why Stephen Paddock did what he did?
No. No. But I have this feeling, Chris. This is a man who behaved rationally, privately, a little introverted, liked to play video poker, but he was a rational man, and every historical review of his behavior indicates that he was a rational man. So was his girlfriend. And yet he prepared, over an extended period of time, a totally irrational act. Now, this sounds like someone either totally demented, a behavior which he never evidenced, or someone who's sending a message. This is a plan. We don't know what that message is, or if there is one, but this behavior, according to my employees, is as stunning, as unexpected as any of them have ever met. And that's the status, that I hear from the sheriff and watching television. That seems to be the momentary analysis of the situation. I really don't have anything to add to that.
Steve Wynn, thank you. Thanks for your time. And we'll be watching how you and the rest of Las Vegas respond to this terrible tragedy. Thanks again, sir.
We'll be fine. We'll be fine. The president did a good job.